Hello, everybody. Come on in, take a seat. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT network here at Center Ice. I am Nick, and I believe still out with a upper body injury is Brit. But she again sends her apologies to those that are watching, and hopes that she can make it back. Hopefully, I think next week we're kind of shooting for the target week. That's the hard part about in the NHL business. You're called week to week. That's the hard part. Additionally, this week we're kind of going through some maintenance on the platform that we're streaming on. So right now, this is only being sent to YouTube. So we're going to try and see if we can get that sent elsewhere after the YouTube live stream is finished. So for those of you who are usual commenters or those of you who would see it on different platforms, apologize for the delay. If it is only on YouTube this episode, apologize for that as well. Okay, before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay, with that being said, we are going to pivot from what I told everyone last week because we were planning on doing some kind of a Q&A session. We did get questions. A lot of them, though, I felt it was best if Britt and I both answer them instead of just my input. I really wanted this to kind of be a team answer. So we'll wait until Britt is back before we do the questions and answers. But feel free to continue to send them in. Like I said, you know where to find us on our social media platforms. So go ahead and just let us give us anything you have. We'll incorporate as many questions as we can in. Okay. So that being said, there were questions that I continued to think of. There was one, though, that caught my interest. I guess it was phrased differently, but it made me think of something else. So I guess is a good way to put it. So the question that I guess popped up in my head is, what is the Avalanche's Stanley Cup window in reality? Right now, for those of you who don't know, a Stanley Cup window is basically when you know you are going to be making the playoffs and have a very strong chance of making the Stanley Cup final and winning the Stanley Cup. So that's kind of the window, right? And the Avalanche have obviously been in that window for a good long while, right? At minimum, I'd say 5 years now, right? So that kind of raised the question that I'm kind of molding into my own was, what is the reality of the Stanley Cup window for the Colorado Avalanche? So in order to answer that question, I think we need to kind of go into the contracts and kind of where that all sits with the Avalanche and maybe some things that might be hindering the Avs from extending that window, I guess, because obviously year 5, so to speak, maybe even a little longer, but I would say 5 definite years. We'll go into contracts. We'll go into what I think may be the holdup, what I think might be a potential downfall happens if the Avalanche miss the playoffs for one reason or another, and what that might mean. So if I go on to Puckpedia, they have the roster breakdown of not only team by salary, but each individual player, how long it's going to be. Puckpedia now has kind of taken over the mantle, I guess I should say, or everyone's kind of go-to from Cap Friendly, which was ultimately bought out by the Washington Capitals for their benefit. So if I go to the roster breakdown here, I'll be able to see who we have for the next long while. Okay. So immediately right off the bat, we have Nathan MacKinnon, who's going to be a UFA in 2031. So he's not going anywhere. That being said, I am very cautious about when I'm saying not go. something to maybe keep your eyes on as far as a promise of you're staying forever type thing. I don't want to necessarily go that far, but it's really hard when it's like the two that you were even more sure of than Nico was Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. So let's kind of make sure that we understand this thing. When you have Nathan McKinnon on your team, you're going to always have some sort of a shimmer of hope, right? Of not only making the playoffs, but going deep, right? And it even intensifies more when you have Cale Makar that joins you as well. Okay. Now, Cale Makar has this season and next season before his contract is up. Okay. It went by very, very quickly. I'll be the first to mention that. It felt like his extension that he signed um, kind of just came and went. Like it's crazy just how fast that's been since I believe it was the 2022 season. So that's been pretty quick. But at $9 million AAV with Nathan McKinnon at 12.6, they're going to be kind of your heavy hitters. Okay. Your next three heavy hitters are going to be Brock Nelson at 7.5, who signed for the next 3 seasons. Gabe Landeskog at 7 million, who's 5 more seasons. And then Devon Taves at 7.25, who just signed an extension all the way to 2031. So that's your core. Those are the ones who, I guess, your highest paids, I should say, and as far as contract is concerned, they're going to be earning the most. Marty Necas after that at 6.5 for just this last season before he becomes a UFA. We'll talk about him in a second. And then Val Nichushkin at 6.13, and he becomes a UFA at 2030. Okay, so keep in mind all these dates I'm rattling off because that'll end up being something to keep in mind as we get later down through these contracts. Let's see. Sam Girard becomes your next guy at 5 million. Josh Manson, who just signed his extension, he becomes a UFA in 2028. And then Arturi Lehkonen has 2 more years, this year and next, before he becomes UFA. Ross Colton, same thing. And then your other big guy is Logan O'Connor at 2.5, and he's a UFA all the way up till 2031. Okay. Now, that being said, those are all the guys currently, I guess, besides Keaton Middleton. Mackenzie Blackwood's another big one with his extension all the way to 2030. Those are all the people that have tenure on them for more than 1 season. Okay. With that being said, all those people that I listed off, I guess with the exception of Necas, which I said we'll get to, I really don't see the cup window closing until at the worst possible time 2 seasons from now. Okay. So we'll have this season and then an additional 2 seasons before anything really closes. Or no, excuse me, I had that backward thinking. This season and next season, when your cup window is at its strongest, right? In this current state of the team's contracts, and that's not even everybody, right? Now, with Martin Necas, that one's going to be interesting because obviously at 6.5, he's going to command more money. Now, the big thing that hinders the Avalanche is that they are always playing this cap game, case in point, trading away Charlie Coyle and Miles Wood just to open up cap space. They usually become strapped for cash very quickly, right? And it's not going to help, especially when you're doing all these like Sam Burns, or gosh, I keep saying Sam Burns, Brett Burns contracts where it's a conditional contract, right? Whereas the base pay is $1 million, but there's always these add-ons. There's always these clauses, I guess, where if he is able to play X number of games, he gets another $1 million, or if he takes the team this far, he gets another $1 million. I don't exactly know his particular one, but it's a modified contract where other pay can happen because of bonuses and performances and stuff like that. That does, though, still count against the cap, right? I don't think a lot of people realize that. Now, with the goaltending, with the forwards and the defense that I said, I mean, you're still going to be in a really good spot for the next 2 seasons at least. I don't foresee Arturi Lehkonen potentially going anywhere. I think he's been a very big piece to the Avalanche. But going back to Martin H's, just to kind of close that out, he's going to command more money. He's going to be asking probably around the ballpark of 9 to 10. Keep this in mind, since the cap is jumping up, I do not see that becoming an issue. The only issue I do see potentially this becoming is when teams are prepared to offer more, right? Those who are not strapped for cash but still have a very bright future. Those who, for example, those who want him more. And if he so desires to test the free agent market. Now, is it going to, offer a big clobbering blow to the Avalanche? No, it's going to be a gut punch, but it's not going to be this, absolutely dire hit that cripples you and you're down for the count. He's one of your top performers, but you can, I think, get something done given that the cap's going up. You can make that $3 million pay in a cap jump of nearly 10, right? As far as his extra, that's where I give the 3 from, I guess, to be more clear. So that's the cap situation I should talk about. Okay. Now, what does that necessarily mean for the Avalanche in the cup window? Assuming you can kind of keep this team relatively together and bring in those extra pieces, your Arturi Lekkonens, or maybe your personal projects of Val Nichushkins. The Avalanche aren't this kind of sit by the wayside, poorly GM team. They have a very good GM and his, I guess you could say, mentor in Chris McFarland and then Joe Sakic. Joe Sakic being the previous GM, he mentored and continues to mentor Chris McFarland. So I don't think that they're going to go and make these really boneheaded moves. They've had a very good track record for making good moves. They've done a lot with the little cap space they've been given. So as far as, I guess I'll break it down this way. As far as cap itself, I think your window at minimum has now jumped from 2 years, this is the next year, to at least 4. So you've at least doubled that, because I know people want to come play with Nathan MacKinnon. People want to come play with Cale Makar. The Avalanche is a very well-run organization, so I really don't mind saying 4 years is a healthy minimum, okay? And so you can at least enjoy the next 4 years, Avalanche fans, in my opinion, of healthy cup runs that you could go and make, okay? Now, that being said, as far as players that kind of die into that year 3, year 4, as far as they may not be here, Cale Makar is one of those, okay? That could be a huge, blow to the head if you don't sign him. Do I think you will? Of course I do. He's Cale Makar, and he is Avalanche. He's the one who won the Conn Smythe with the Avalanche. They're kind of one and the same. Okay. Now, do I think those extension talks begin this year? Yeah, begin. But I don't think it's any more of, hey, we just want to make sure you still want to play with us. Are you looking for an extension? And I'm really confident that answer for him is yes. Okay. If that is the case, 4 is not even a question, right? You're going to find good players to play with good players. Okay. So that's one thing. Next thing, though, this one is going to be one that may hurt this window, and that is, who's your up and coming talent. I'll give anyone, anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds to go online so you can come up with a good name of anyone within the Eagles, Grizzlies, or below organization, maybe off in the KHL that's got the tie to the Avalanche, whatever. I'll give you all a little bit of time to name me a player that can be earth-shattering and ground-moving for the Avalanche as far as their farm system is concerned. I don't think he can. That's going to be the difficult thing with this window is you are relying solely upon getting players that are good now. Okay. You don't have a system like a Utah, like a San Jose, even, or you just don't have that, right? Whereas these other teams that have developed, and that's kind of been their kind of homegrown system where stuff now begins to rise to the top, and you see that stuff beginning to happen. Um, that's what's going to hurt you. Now, do I think that's going to mean that it diminishes the cup window? No. The Avalanche have gotten by just fine with trading away picks, getting players now, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's going to hurt it that bad, but it definitely is not going to help that situation, especially when injuries are such an issue. And we'll get to injuries in just a second. But assuming that injury does happen, right? You are relying on AHL or minimal NHL experience on your fourth line or on your third pairing, or maybe even bleeding into the third line, second pairing, stuff like that. That experience doesn't really get you far, unfortunately. Okay. So, in the oddity years of injuries, then yeah, there may be something that keeps it temporarily closed down, right? It's going to depend on them to step up. Does that, now the question I guess I should continue to ask is, what does that do for the slate of window? With that all in mind, I don't think your cup window is going to extend by any means. However, given who else is out there, given what I think can be done, especially when people like the team, those who are already on it, I think 4 years continues to be the year mark, despite the, I guess, home route disadvantage that the Avalanche currently have, where they have to go get veteran players or experienced players to fill in that roster spot. Okay. They don't have that luxury of, you know, since they're already good now and they're in their cup window now, they can't just say, hey, we're going to retool, we're going to, all this kind of stuff. No, the success is now, right? It has to be now. And that's the hard part, is they have to go and get players that are good now. So that being said, 4 years is healthy. Do I think that 4 years is going to be when the decline begins to happen? I think so. Okay. Now, is it going to be a decline as far as dropping out of the playoffs immediately? No. But I think it may become more difficult as other teams begin to rise. Case in point, here in the Central Division, Utah, right across the way, they are growing a farm system that is going to keep their future bright from anywhere from now up to 10 years or now up to a dozen years. Like, they have the backup, they have the development, they have the draft picks, they have everything that they could plan for future wise to future proof themselves. It's a luxury the Avalanche don't get, unfortunately. So that's in the Central Division. Other teams kind of similar in status. Dallas is one of those. Winnipeg is slowly becoming one of those. But you have other teams like St. Louis. I mentioned Utah. Potentially, you could have, this isn't going to be immediate, but Chicago, Minnesota, where they are going to have integrated this type of a system, and they can go, and all they need is a couple of veteran pieces, not to fill out the entire roster, but just a couple of veteran pieces to slot in where they need the experience and the mentees, and they're ready. Okay. And that just means that the Central Division becomes even more scary. Okay. So I want you to keep in mind that there are teams that are future proofing themselves, and the Avalanche unfortunately cannot do that unless they get creative, but that's going to involve some sacrificing. Okay. I want people to realize that it's not going to come without a cost. Okay. You can be savvy, and you do have the benefit of the fact that players like being here. Okay. So that's a good sign. but you're going to have to get creative if you are Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic in order to keep pieces but develop other ones. Okay. Now, that being said, realistically, playoff wise, because as soon as you get to the playoffs, people, players become different players. I think good chances, as far as my honest opinion, good, honest chances runs you all the way till 2030. Okay. So the 2029, or what is that, 5 seasons from now. Okay. I think that's an honest cup window for the Avalanche. I think anything within those 5 years, you have a fighter's chance of making it to and winning the Stanley Cup. Now, shifting gears a little bit here. In the event of an injury plagued season or a season that all of a sudden things just did not click, okay? My worry is that people begin to just smash the panic button because nothing's going to plan. Everyone's falling over by the wayside. We lost McKinnon. We lost McCarr. Knock on wood, right? Like, we lost McKinnon. We lost McCarr. We're losing everyone. We're filling our players with AHLers, and you miss the season, okay? Or they're just all in a rut. Nothing can be done. This is not Avalanche hockey. They miss the playoffs. Okay. Both are possibilities. Now, are they strong possibilities? I hope not, and I don't think so. But they're both possibilities nonetheless. My caution for those who will hit the panic button is just to determine that it was just a bad year with off ice circumstances beyond your control, injuries, mental, blocks, whatever it was. The former being the more likely to happen. I don't think the time becomes fire the coach, sell the team, do this, do that. In my opinion, that is the worst thing you can do, especially since you've seen their past, what they're capable of, especially in the team you have on the ice. That's the worst thing you can do. That to me means you just decided to cut your window thinking that you were going to lose it. Okay. So to me, they're just one off years, right? It's like it was a bad season, stuff happened. I still very much believe that if you just go back to square one, roll with those punches, or I guess get them out of the way, whatever it was, you're right back on track. Okay. So your window may just have a little blip in it. Okay. But that blip should not be the reason you are deciding to just blow the franchise up. Fire Jared Bednar, trade so and so, do this, do that. Don't do that, especially after 1 year. Okay. There are teams, Vegas, that do that kind of stuff, right? Did it end up working out for them to go into Stanley Cup? Yeah, it did. Doesn't always, though. Vegas, in a very Vegas way, gambled that chance and it happened to pay off. Okay. That doesn't mean it's the thing to do every single time, especially since you had a coach that brought you from the ashes into this Stanley Cup championship caliber team who won a cup, mind you. And players such as Cale Makar, such as Nathan McKinnon, who Makar wins the Conn Smythe. Nathan McKinnon now has a Hart Trophy to his name. Okay. You don't just go and completely butcher people's accomplishments because you think it may be in decline. Player contracts like Mikko Rantanen, sure, that's a 50-50 gamble. That's an understandable move as much as you don't like it, as much as I didn't like it, but you understand why. But for an entire team, no, I very much caution against it. In my opinion, it's just a 1 year hiccup, but your window, if you think of the grand scheme of things, is still going to be open for those 5 years, hopefully more. Okay. So, that being said, we have the contracts that we've talked about and what that looks like with the cap going up. I think we're going to be okay as long as you get those key signings done. If not, get their equivalents brought in. And I bring that up, bringing, gosh, what am I saying here? thinking of Natchez specifically, if you can bring a similar caliber player in, then you're okay. But Cale Makar is going to be the big one, right? He's going to be very coveted. Assume if he doesn't hit, or if he does hit free agency, he'll be the coveted one. But if you are able to keep the main characters intact and the rest of the ensemble gets filled out, I think you're going to be okay cap wise. Players wise, as far as who's on the ice, right? I think again, it's just like the cap. You're going to be fine. Production, I don't think, is going to cease for any of these players for any period of time, at least not immediate. Okay. Nathan MacKinnon is going to continue to be Nathan MacKinnon. Cale Makar is going to continue to be Cale Makar. It's the people around him, your Landeskog's, your Nichushkins, your Lekkonens, your Nelsons, those types of players, where as long as they continue to have solid numbers as far as a player production standpoint, the cup window remains open. Okay. From an injury standpoint, the thing that plagues the Avalanche more than anything, that's the only place where a hiccup could occur. But even so, the Avalanche have continued to make the playoffs despite being plagued by injuries. Okay. So if a hiccup happens at all, it's because basically the entire team got injured and an entire AHL team replaced them. That's the only way I see a hiccup really happening in that tenure, in that window. Okay. And then as far as the farm team or the farm system, you don't have any future window. Okay. You have, unless you're ready to kind of tear it all down or you've seen signs, you need to start racking up picks when that predicted window might be closing. Okay. Because you don't have a future proof. You don't have a, follow up plan. It's win and win now, and we'll worry about the future later. In that sense, you don't have a window. You have now, and you're buying time. Okay. But that buying time, in my opinion, is that 5 years, like I mentioned. Okay. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below or just DM us. Let me know what you think as far as cup windows. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree with what I said? You're more than welcome to either one of them. Are there any additional, I guess, items or things to keep in mind when it comes to this cup window? In my opinion, I don't really think there's going to be too much as far as a broad spectrum of things other than those categories that needs to be thought of. But I'm more than happy to welcome other items if I didn't think of them. Okay, so that's going to wrap up the bulk, I guess, of what we will talk about today. It's really difficult to kind of get up that time, especially in the dead season. However, there are some noteworthy items, I guess. It has been rumored, and that rumor is really starting to pick up speed, that the Avalanche have another jersey on the way. A nice blue jersey that's going to pay homage to the Quebec Nordiques. I'm hoping that is the case, and it seems like a lot of good sources, or at least credible sources, have stated that this is a thing. If that's the case, the Colorado Avalanche literally just figured out a way to print money and to haul it in by the bagful. Okay, do you realize those type of a retro jersey would go for so much? Or I guess not go for so much. They probably sell them at regular price, but they would sell so many of them that it feels like they're going for so much. There we go. Now the question remains this, at least my question remains this. Does this replace the third jersey? That navy and maroon jersey with the triangle, you all know the one. Or does this guy, or a blue form of it, I should say, become the new third jersey that is worn against Central Division rivals at home? I don't know. Or is it like a Hartford Whalers night situation for like the Carolina Hurricanes do, where just one night out of the year they wear that jersey? Again, hard to say. If it is the former, boy howdy, they're going to make a lot of people happy, minus some people up toward northeastern Canada. Though I kind of see it as a bit of a kind of a payoff to their history, right? They were the Quebec Nordiques. They were, excuse me, I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Glad I got to that mute button quick enough. But to me, it's a payoff of who they once were. I don't see it as a flaunt. I don't see it as a jab or a joust. I just see it as a respect, right? At least again, this is coming from a fan point of view, but I see it as a respectful gesture, right? And I'm hoping a lot of you agree with me in that. So that's a little piece of news that's going to be fun to see what that develops into. Again, if it's the new third jersey, then that becomes the new, I guess, jersey you're using for home games for division rivalries, or maybe now they kind of take that whole concept out and just maybe pepper in dates against random opponents. Who knows? But that's going to be a fun piece of news for everyone. Additionally, something that just came across my mind that I thought was really, really funny is that the Avalanche, the social media people have been writing haikus for every NHL team. If you haven't, they're barely only, I'd probably say maybe like a third of the way done with all the teams. But if you haven't seen their Twitter page already, I would very much recommend you do. It's pretty good stuff. I really enjoy it. There were a couple of haikus that have sparked some interesting debate. Got some people riled up. There was one particularly against Dallas, which really got a firestorm, or at least a mini firestorm going. But my gosh, they are the most hilarious things. Okay, that being said, though, I don't really have much else as far as items for this week. If there is something that does pop up, obviously, we'll talk about it. But other than that, other than maybe a couple of hires for some assistant coaches and or skills coaches, like I know Mark Popovich was hired on. Um, I think at this point it's just kind of biding the time still, right? So that being said, I think we're just going to have just another shortened episode. But again, let me know your thoughts as far as the cup window for the Avalanche. Is it as sustainable as people think it is, or at least how I think it is? Do you agree with my comments? Do you disagree with my comments? Let us know in either the comments below or shoot us a DM on our various social media platforms. Letting us know your thoughts as far as will the Avalanche continue to keep it alive, or will eventually they become victim like a typical and I guess un unavoidable scenario is where you have your ups, then you'll have your downs, right? Every team is going to have them. Similarly, like Pittsburgh, for example, a long window of making the playoffs, and then now it's kind of coming to an end, right? Eventually, is even as for as long as you can hold it, it will come to an end. But I don't think it's coming to an end anytime within at least the next 5 years, maybe more, hopefully more. But let me know what you guys think. But again, everyone, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us at our network channel on your various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, this page specifically, you can do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, fingers crossed that next week Brit's feeling up to snuff to maybe join us. Again, I know, especially with like face and jaw area, it's not a lot of fun, especially when medications involved, recoveries involved. So everyone continue to give thoughts and prayers to her that she recovers in a timely and efficient manner. But with that being said, we'll go ahead, leave you guys to your own devices. Sorry I had to put up with just me for another week. I know Brit's really the star of the show, but I appreciate everyone for joining in on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. Again, the off-season train continues to roll forward. I believe we are nearing 2 months from the day of this recording, from opening night for the 2025-2026 NHL season. Have a good weekend, everyone. And as always, go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.